It's one thing to lose a fight. It's another to lay in the street and ask to be run over. Or to say you're done, that there's no point in going on. This is One Course Meal, the SpongeBob episode where Plankton says there's no point of continuing life, that he's done with everything. And somehow, this was played for laughs. But when you rewatch it now, it doesn't feel like a joke. Because this isn't a simple Krabs versus Plankton episode. It's not just another bad day in Bikini Bottom, it's something much darker. Starting with the moment Plankton tries to blow up the Krusty Krab and somehow ends up afraid of mall money. Plankton shows up with another wild scheme to steal the Krabby Patty formula, this time using bombs, a glider, and full villain theatrics. Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob respond the only way they know how, by turning SpongeBob into a pea-shooting cannon. It's over-the-top cartoon chaos. Totally ridiculous. It's what we expect. Plankton actually wins the fights and manages to capture both of them. But then the show takes a dark turn. He is scared like he's seen a ghost. Turns out, Plankton has a deep-rooted phobia of whales. Not just because whales eat plankton in the food chain, but because, as we see in a cutaway flashback, his entire family was literally devoured by one. And Mr. Krabs? He sees this weakness and immediately decides to exploit it. And just like that, Plankton crumbles. He doesn't run because he's losing, he runs because he's terrified. At first, it feels like a throwaway gag. But this isn't a joke the episode drops. It's the joke the episode commits to. Krabs dresses up like his own daughter, stalks Plankton, and spends the rest of the episode terrorizing him with a fake whale persona. And I mean literally stalking. He starts to infiltrate Chum Bucket just to scare Plankton. From here on, we watch Plankton slowly unravel. He barricades his doors, refuses to step into the light, becomes a paranoid, sleep-deprived wreck. The guy gets so mentally broken down, he starts having nightmares where he's swallowed whole, burns in gastric acid, and ends up reunited with his dead ancestors inside a whale's stomach. And you know what's even more dark? Karen isn't buying this whole charade in the slightest. She kept ignoring Plankton's fear and brushed it off as delusional paranoia. Plankton's trauma isn't just mocked by the audience, it's ignored by his partner, and it only gets worse from here. Because after 16 days of mental torture, nightmares, and gaslighting, Plankton gives up. He lies down in the street and waits for a bus. He wanted to end it all. This is the moment everything stops being funny. This is a character with nothing left, who wants the pain to end. He lays in the road hoping to get hit by a bus. He even tells SpongeBob to step on him, and when SpongeBob won't, Plankton shrugs and says he'll wait for the next bus. And how does Mr. Krabs react to all this? He laughs. He actually erases Plankton's face off of a photo like he just won a video game. Even SpongeBob is like, sir, isn't this maybe going a little far? But Krabs brushes it off like it's no big deal. Eventually, SpongeBob, bless his naive heart, breaks the cycle. He tells Plankton it was Krabs in a costume the whole time. He even shares Krabs' biggest fear in return. So now, Plankton fights back. He confronts Krabs, brings in a mime, Krabs' greatest fear, and for a moment, it's cathartic. It's a nice little revenge arc, but it's short-lived, because SpongeBob interrupts again, this time with a fake whale attack. Not just a resolution, but with a character who we've seen tortured, gaslit, and broken down, disappearing under a joke. It's easy to dismiss it all as just cartoon logic, but come on, you felt it too, right? That wasn't just mean, it was off. It stuck with you for the wrong reasons, not because it was edgy, but because it felt hollow. So now we've got to ask, what went wrong here? How did a goofy rivalry turn into one of the most unsettling episodes in SpongeBob history? And more importantly, did it have to? You see, on paper, One Course Meal is just another Krabs versus Plankton episode, but something about this one feels uncomfortable, and mean in a way that doesn't bounce back. But why? Let's start with Krabs. We all know he's greedy and selfish. He's a cheapskate and kind of a jerk, that's his whole deal. But in this episode, it goes beyond rivalry. He doesn't even really defend the formula. He crosses a line and stays there. Once he finds out about Plankton's fear of whales, Krabs doesn't hesitate. He immediately turns that into ammunition. He dresses up like Pearl, stalks Plankton, and gaslights him day after day, night after night. It stops being cartoon hijinks. We've never seen Krabs this sadistic, at least before season 7, when this episode aired. What makes it feel even colder is how the episode commits to this. There's no moral pushback. Krabs never realized that he went too far with the tricks. Even after the mime's terror at the end, he knows exactly what it feels like and still doesn't stop. And Karen? Let's talk about Karen. She's his wife, his one lifeline, but in this episode, she's not just checked out, she's completely indifferent. You could say that at this point Karen is fed up with Plankton's shenanigans, because in fact, he has indeed failed a lot and made a lot of drama before. I mean, Karen doesn't even seem surprised when Plankton is failing in the episode. But even then, wouldn't 16 days of isolation, complete mental shutdown, and terror over a hallucinated threat warrant some concern? Instead, Karen becomes another symbol of this episode's emotional vacuum. She could have been the one to ground it, to add a human moment, but the writers didn't go there. SpongeBob might just be the only hero in this story. Watching it back again, maybe he knows that Plankton's fear wouldn't end well if it went untreated. SpongeBob purposely opens up Krabs' card, revealing the truth. Even goes as far as telling Plankton Krabs' biggest fears just so Plankton could get out of his own bad thoughts. He might have just saved Plankton from Squidward's level of depression. That's what makes this episode so uncomfortable. Not just that it's dark, but that it feels true in the worst way. Because the second Plankton stops being a threat, nobody checks in. Not his rival, not his wife, not even the show itself. It's cruelty without consequence. It's one thing to write a villainous character, it's another thing to celebrate their worst behavior without ever asking if they went too far. But you know what's also weird? In trying to be dark and edgy, this episode stumbles into something kind of true and tragic. Because this is exactly how a lot of people experience mental health in real life. You get mocked instead of helped, your breakdown becomes a punchline. And when you finally snap, no one asks why. They just talk about how crazy you looked. This episode unintentionally reveals sometimes people are more interested in watching someone suffer than asking how they got there. And Plankton, the guy we usually laugh at, ends up being one of the most human characters in the episode. Now, take a step back. Forget for a moment that it's SpongeBob. Just ask yourself, what are we really watching? Because what Plankton goes through isn't just some wacky misadventure. A lot of people know what Plankton feels like. Maybe it started small. A nickname, a habit, a fear, something people teased you about because it made you different. And at first, you laughed along. But over time, it stopped being funny because they didn't stop. And suddenly, you're not laughing. You're just surviving the laughs. We've all seen it. In school, at work, online, someone gets picked on because they're the weird one, the angry one, the outsider. And sure, sometimes that person lashes out, gets mean, loses it, but most of the time, that anger comes from somewhere. A fear, a loss, a sadness no one ever asked about. And when people find that crack, they press on it, poke at it like it's a game. It's just a joke. Why are you so sensitive? But jokes don't heal trauma. They just hide it, until one day you can't laugh at it anymore. What makes this episode unintentionally powerful is that it mirrors that pain. The kind we're not always brave enough to talk about, especially when it comes dressed as comedy. It shows how easy it is to ignore someone until it's too late. How easy it is to say, it's just a joke, instead of, do you need help? But maybe that's what we're supposed to take from this. Not the whale costume, not the mime revenge, but the quiet, terrifying truth. That sometimes the people who seem the most ridiculous are the ones hurting the most. And if we don't start looking closer, really paying attention, then we're not just missing the point, we're becoming part of the problem. So, what does it say about this episode that one of the darkest moments in SpongeBob history is played for laughs? Honestly, it says more than it meant to. Because one course meal isn't just dark, it's careless. It treats trauma like a prank, depression is like a joke, and pain like it's part of the fun. But here's the thing. Plankton didn't deserve any of this. And neither do the people in real life who break down in ways no one understands. This episode isn't infamous just because it's mean. It's infamous because it reflects a truth we've all seen. That sometimes the world only takes you seriously after you've collapsed. That being bullied doesn't always look like shoves and insults. Sometimes it's subtle, passive, even dressed up in humor. But you know what stings more than Krabs in a costume? Karen's silence. She's Plankton's wife, his partner, the only person who sees him behind closed doors. And yet, she does nothing. She just shrugs him off, calls him paranoid, and tells him to take out the trash. That ignorance from the one person who's supposed to know him best might be the coldest thing in the whole episode. If this story really wanted to go dark and say something meaningful, Karen should have been the one to step in, to check on him, challenge Krabs, or just ask if he's okay. Because being seen makes your pain bearable, and when even the person who should see you refuses to look, it breaks something deeper. Imagine if Karen had just one real moment. Something simple like, "Plankton, I thought you were being dramatic, but I didn't know it got this bad." That would have changed many things. Because the show's message wouldn't be, "Toughen up." It'd be, "We need to pay attention to the people we love, especially when they stop being themselves." And for a kid's show, that would have been a hell of a message. The world's full of people like Plankton. If you've ever felt like Plankton, you're not alone. You're not weak for hurting. You're not dramatic for reacting. You're human. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is keep showing up. This episode might have missed the point, but you don't have to. We just have to look a little closer, and maybe start taking each other more seriously than a cartoon ever did. So yeah, One Course Meal might be one of the most dark SpongeBob episodes out there. Not because it's mean, but because it touches something sensitive and then laughs at it. But imagine if it had the heart to go just a little further, to check in instead of just checking out, to show that even a villain deserves empathy. And if that's the story you're looking for, there's another episode that actually does get it right. Until then, stay kind. Look out for each other.